What's going on, everybody? GNS3 version 2 is out. Now, if you haven't had any time to check out GNS3 version 2, I highly recommend that you head on over to GNS3.com and check it out. I actually have it running on another server. I'm going to walk you through some of the basics of how to get it up and running because of the fact that I personally use GNS3 for a lot of my training, and I walk you guys through how to configure it and get it up and running. So a lot of what I'm going to be doing and showing you guys how to do here is how do you download it, how do you get it installed. So there's a lot of components to it in order to get it to work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to walk you through how the how to download it and stuff like that. First thing you want to do here is click the free download. You'll be redirected to there. I'm going to go ahead and click on login. I have my information already input. Go ahead and log in and continue. It's going to be bringing me to this page. Now, one of the things that I recommend you do is download the Windows version here. And I also want to click, I've already got this part downloaded, so click on download, but I also want to download the GNS3 VM. So I'm going to click on this guy. It's going to start the download for that, as you can see. And if you click on the software, the GNS3 VM. Now, to be 100% clear, I have not actually downloaded this yet. So as you and I are going through here, there's going to be a little bit of I don't know what I'm doing to get it to work. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to download it to get it started. But the idea here is to get everything operational and working the way that it's supposed to. Now, I've already got GNS3 downloaded from a previous download, so we should be just about done here in a second. Let me go ahead and show you GNS3 as I am playing with this, sitting here waiting for this to finish downloading. So this is GNS3 version 2. Looks the same, right? And it really is. So this is actually going to be one of the test topologies that I'm working on for some of the training courses that I'm looking at putting out. Head on over to RikersIslandTraining.com, which is in the description below. Go check out the website, see where we're at, see what we're doing, and go from there. So we should be just about done with our download, and we are about 30 seconds out. I'm going to pause the video, wait for this to finish downloading, and then I will bring you guys back up to speed as to what happens next. Alright, now that we are downloaded, we can go ahead and click on the next portion of things to get everything installed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close this guy out. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. So now here we are on the old version. This is GNS3 version 2. If you didn't know, go help and you go about. This is 2.0. It does work. It's operational. It's a little different operationally to get working. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to shoot a video on it, because it can be kind of difficult to get running if you've never dealt with it before. Now, full disclosure, I don't run GNS3 locally on the computer that I'm recording on. I always put it on a device that has way more resources. Just so you guys know that this computer here, go to Properties. This computer here is an actual IBM server that I installed Windows 7 Professional on. It's got 64 gigs of RAM and it's a Xeon processor, so it does support virtualization. I installed it as, it's more like for GNS3 and for VMware Workstation, things like that. Gives me more flexibility from there. So that's basically what is up with that. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've actually already got a lab built, right? I could hit the record button and start going, hey guys, let's dig into switching, you know, but I'm not going to do that. But this is actually going to leverage, allow a lot of people, I should say, to leverage the ability to go through here and check out how CCNA and CCNP for sure works out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just stop everything. I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy. I'm going to shut him down real quick. Oh, there they are. I'm going to go ahead and just minimize. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this guy out. Give that a second. And There we go. So everything's closed out. Go. Cool. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and uninstall GNS3 completely as if it was a brand new install. So be right back. Alright, well that is uninstalling, which actually it's done right now, but what I want to walk you guys through is deploying the GNS3 VM, because it gets installed in either Workstation, VMware Player, or ESXi, VirtualBox, any virtualization platform that's out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and on my other screen, you guys can't see, but that's okay. Control Shift, or is it Control J? Yes. The zip file. Whoops. I don't think anything was in there you guys needed to see. I'll go ahead and just blur that out. So let's see here. We're going to go ahead and unzip this. Okay, so there's an OBA. Once you download the zip file, there's actually an OBA file, which is this guy right here. It's around 300 meg. Not too bad, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to export this to a file locally, and then I'm going to show you guys how to import. So pardon me while I take care of that. If you don't know how to do that, if you right click on here and go copy, copy to, that's how you would do that. Be right back. Okay, now that it's done being copied, I'm going to go ahead and go file. I'm going to click on deploy OVF template. Now I'm going to drag this off screen. There it goes, a little slow to get loaded. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to drag this off screen. I'm going to go find the file. So browse. And then once it loads up, I'm going to click on my file that I've saved it in. So you can do wherever that is. I'm going to select the file, which is the GNS3 VM.ova. I'm going to click on open. Bring this guy back over. I'm going to click on next. Now, I have no idea what the resources requirements are for this, but I'm going to give it like 32 gigs of RAM and stuff like that just to play with it. I'm going to click on next. Now, I've already got two VMs that say GNS3, so I'm going to type in here -VM, which is going to tell me that it's the GNS3-VM. I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to save it in this folder right here. I'm going to thin provision it, and I'm going to say that I need to be able to it's host-only network. Oh, that's fine. But I want to be able to, yeah, that should be alright. No, actually, no. I'm going to go ahead and change this over to be VM network because I want to be able to access it remotely. Click on next. That should be okay. I can change that later on if I need to. And so now it's finished, and now it's going to go ahead and begin deploying. Everything's running just a touch slow because of the fact that my computer hasn't been rebooted in like ever. So that is why things are going the way that they are. So I'm going to let that do its thing. I'm going to go jump back over to my other computer, which is where this guy is at. I'm actually going to go ahead and uninstall this one as well because I want to do a fresh install of that. This is actually one of the things you need to install when you just deploy GNS3 for the first time for version 2. So it gives you a lot of additional capabilities like other options. You'll see what I mean by that in a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and close this guy out. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find the file that I need, and I'll bring you guys back in. So here is the new GNS3 2.0 setup wizard. I recommend just follow along with the wizard. It makes it really, really easy to work with. Click on next and agree. Next again. Now I'm going to enable this NP cap and then scroll down and make sure all these guys are installed. Even if they're not installed, you can just go ahead and cancel out as you're getting to that point. I'm going to go ahead and click on next. Install. It's already installed. I'm going to click cancel if you want to abort the installation. I'm going to agree to the NP cap setup. I'm going to install NP. I'm going to say click on the second to the last one says support 802.1q VLAN tag when capturing and sending data. I'm going to go ahead and click on install, and it's going to go ahead and do its thing. Now this usually takes a minute, so it's one of those things where you're going along, be patient, it's a little bit more involved. Now going back over to our ESXi install of This guy. So it's successfully deployed. So here we go. Now it grabs 2 gigs of RAM, which obviously is not going to be anywhere near enough, right? So we're going to come in here, we're going to give it 32 because we have 128 to play with, and I'm going to go ahead and give it 2 vCPUs, 2 cores out of my socket, and I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and I'm going to go ahead and power on, and then in a moment I'm going to go ahead and say Open Console. Now again, I haven't deployed this yet, so I'm not exactly sure what all is going to be required, but we're going to see what the operations look like here in just a moment. Let's take a peek once it decides to start working. There it goes. That is cryptic. There we go. So once it starts loading up, then we'll be in good shape. I'm going to go back over to our other deployment. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to pause the video, or pause that here, and I'm going to go ahead and go back over to our other deployment so we can finish this guy, because I don't want to be jumping back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and click on Next, and has been NPCap has been installed. Finish the wizard. I'm going to cancel the download of Wireshark. No. Cancel the download of SolarWinds. Nope. And let it go ahead and finish its install. What I want to focus on here is the actual getting things to work the way that they need to be working phase. Because once we get into the meat and potatoes of how it works, there's some things you guys need to know. Because you can take this version of GNS3 and point it to a GNS3 VM. So there's some things in here that you may need to work on as you're going along. So keep that in the back of your mind. How do you want to interact with GNS3? That is a big thing right there. So as you can tell, it's pretty much the same setup. But one thing that I noticed is a lot of quirkiness and a lot of, I don't know if it's going to work. It seems to, a lot of the bugs have been worked out. So my hat's off to the GNS3 team. I have been I did the crowdfund, I believe is what they called it, a while ago. And so now we are fully installed and ready to go. So now GNS3 goes, I go ahead and I close the window off in the background. Now it says, there's a couple different options here for you, and it's trying to connect to the local server. And it says, please choose a server type to run on your GNS3 network simulators. It is strongly recommend the GNS3 VM is strongly recommended on Windows and Mac OS X. So if I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run things. I could do things locally, or I could do things remotely. So I'm going to run Legacy iOS on my computer. I have the horsepower though. It's not I'm not running a regular desktop PC with an Intel i5 core processor with 12 gigs of RAM. I've got a workhorse CPU and I got a workhorse RAM. So I'm going to go ahead and load it locally. I'm going to go ahead and click on don't show this again. Click on Next, and it's going to ask me what it is that I'm going to be calling it. So it's going to be the GNS3 server.exe. Now here's the critical piece that I want you guys to pay attention to, and that is this host binding thing. If you don't specify a host binding, if you don't tell it what IP address to point to, it's not going to know what to pull in. So in order for myself, the computer that I'm running this GNS3 on is not the same computer that I'm using to communicate with the routers. So what I mean by that is I take Super Putty or Secure CRT, and I do a telnet connection to the routers, and I point to whatever port number, telnet port number, that the router has mapped to the process in the back end. So I go ahead and I need to map it to 10.255.1.30, which happens to be the IP address of this server. I'm going to click on Next, and it's TCP port 3080. Click on Next, and so it's connecting to that port. It did. Everything seems to be okay. I'm going to click on Next, and now it's asking me what it is that I want to do. I'm going to click on Cancel because I don't want to do anything right now. I'm going to click on Cancel again because I have some work to do. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to expand this guy out, and I'm going to click on, I'm going to close these guys out, and I'm going to go ahead and see what the next steps are. Now that I've got this loaded, now I have to go in here and do a couple things. If we click on Edit, we go to Preferences, we go to Server. One of the things that it does when you choose that middle option, which is I'm going to run iOS locally, it does all the mappings for you. But in my trial and error install, I didn't do any of that, and I was having a lot of problems. So one of the things that I learned was this host binding has to be pointed to the IP address here, and you have to allow connections to any local IP address. So that will allow me, from my computer to this computer, which are two different physical machines, to be able to communicate with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Apply there. It's going to keep that in there. The remote server, if I had an IP address, I'd be able to roll with that, but I don't right at the moment. I'll set that up here in just a moment. Now the GNS3 VM, it'll allow me to point that to there if I want to. I could specify that it is working, and then it's going to be remote, and then I had to specify the VM name. But I'm not going to be doing that right now. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is I do a lot of things on QEMU through iOS v2 or Layer 2 iOS XR because I plan on teaching at least CCNA service provider in here. I might even do CCNP service provider depending on the way that it works out. I will have to test out if I can actually get a the CSR 1000V to work in VirtualBox. I've never really had any success getting it to work. Pardon me in the background. But I'm going to test that out. Normally, if I'm going to do anything that's hardcore in that respect, I'm just going to do that in ESXi. But GNS3 is becoming pretty cool what you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And that should be all. Now, what I have to do now is I have to actually bring in routers. I don't have any routers configured, anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit and Preferences. I'm going to go ahead and click on iOS routers under Dynamips. I'm going to click on New. It's the first thing you need to click on. And then I have a couple of images in here, and I use this newer image. It's 15.3.3xb. You can use whatever image you want. For enterprise routing and switching type things, I use this version of code. If I'm going to be doing anything inside of service provider, I use the 12.2 or the 15.2.4. I have a newer image than that actually, but I use the XB because it's the closest to regular iOS that you guys can get. It doesn't necessarily have to be this version of code either, but this one supports Lisp or Locator ID Separation Protocol, and it happens to be a particular technology I'm learning. As a matter of fact, today I was actually looking at doing a demonstration of it again today. I got VXLAN to work finally in the CSR 1000V. I really haven't tried to get it to work, but it's one of those things that I've got customers that want to see how it works and how it could come into play down the road. So I was able to get VXLAN to work. VXLAN, now that I've actually played with it and I've gotten it to work, it's very similar to Layer 2 VPN with having to set up the bridge domain and stuff like that. And it's actually the underlying transport for things like NSX and ACI to work. So I'm going to click on Next to get this guy rolling. It's going to be 7200, 512 megs of RAM. I just use all the defaults. And then I usually give it 2 fast Ethernet those next again. And then I always do this idle PC finder because it helps you out sooner or quicker. So instead of me having to go out there and run idle PCB value and find it and the old school way of doing it, just run that. No routers have been configured, so it's going to compute the idle PC value, and once it computes that, we'll be in good shape. It usually takes about a minute, but once it does that, it'll automatically apply it to you, so you don't have to go out there and find it, because then all your routers won't go like freak out mode right away. So it's kind of cool how that works out. But once this gets done, I'll show you then how to do some QEMU. I've actually been playing a little bit with some of the Junos devices. So like your Firefly and your Olive for older code. And that's just simply for the fact that it's different. And I'm like, okay, once I go through this with Cisco, once I go through that with Cisco, what else could I learn? So I do plan on doing some VMware training in the future, like your NSX and your desktop support and things like that, or desktop mobility. Click on finish there. So now this is good, right? So this is a server that's up and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And I'm going to click on OK. So now if I click over here, I can deploy this router. I drag it out, and I've actually, what's funny is, it says, it's kind of small, but you need to point this out. It says, please create a project. So I'm grabbing, normally I'd just be able to drag this out. Meh. Doesn't work that way. You need to go File, an open File, new blank project, click on OK, overwrite it, and it's going to go ahead and connect, and then, yes, I know, File, new blank project, Untitled 1, and then now you can go ahead and drag it out. So now it's going out to there to get it ready and rolling. I'm going to go ahead and right click on here and go start. And now it's starting. It's started. I go to console, and then it starts loading the console of the router. So that's basically how you would get a regular iOS box to work in GNS3 version 2. So now that's going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause the video, double check to make sure that I've got the right versions of code working. And for those of you that are interested in the service provider side, I'm going to show you guys how to get both the service provider and for the enterprise routing and switching, iOS V layer 2 and the iOS XR images. I'm going to pause the video, make sure I've got those images ready to go, and I'll walk you guys how to install them. Alright, just verify that I have the versions of code that I need. I'm going to go to Edit and Preferences. I'm going to click over here on QEMU images. I don't have anything in here yet. I need to click on New, and it says we recommend the recommended way to run QEMU on Windows and OS X is to use the GNS3 VM. But you don't have to. That's why it says recommended. So I'm going to click on OK, and it's going to say, what's the name? I'm going to say L2, and I'm going to click on Next. It's going to ask me what RAM binary do you want to use. I'm going to use the default one they present to you. However, here's the caveat. With layer 2 images, I recommend 512 megs of RAM. 512. I'm going to click on Next. And then it's going to see what connection do you need to do. Telnet. You could do BNC if you'd like, but I'm going to stick with Telnet. Click on Next. And which hard drive image do you want to use? I'm going to use the layer 2 image. I'm going to click on Next. So now it creates the layer 2 image. I'm going to go ahead and do one more. I'm going to say New. That's fine. I'm going to say this guy here is going to be XR. Next. This one needs 2 gigs of RAM. 2048 megabytes. Next. Telnet is going to be the connection. And then it is going to be the iOS XR VK9 6.0. The reason why 6.0 and not 5.3 is I am studying for my service provider CCIE. So that's one of those things where 6.0 code is what is required now on the 4.1 version of the exam. So I'm going to click on Finish. I'm going to click on Apply. Click OK. And now if we click on here, now we have layer 2 and we have XR. So I'm going to go ahead and drag out another layer 2 here just so we have it. And you'll see that they get these weird looking icons. Looks like a PC. Well, I don't like that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hover over this, right click and go change symbol. And I'm going to scroll down to the iOS V, or the viral image for layer 2. And I'm going to click apply, click OK. For this guy here, I really don't care, but you know, you could change the symbol of this one too, but the XR image really isn't here. So it's one of those things where you could make it an IDS or a label switch router. It's really up to you and how you want to go about doing it. But they don't have. You could go out there and grab one. Like for instance, I could say use a custom symbol. I could browse, which I will show you guys how to do. I'll find the image that I want, and then I'll import it. So I found the image that I want to use, which is the iOS XR picture. I'm going to go ahead and apply, and there it is. Click OK. And now I've got this gigantic image that I get to move around. Unfortunately, it doesn't scale in size. So it's unfortunately it's really big. But that's what the iOS XR logo looks like. It's actually the carrier routing system, or the CRS, but that's basically how you would go about doing that. So here's the thing. Okay, Rob, great. You were able to get it in working and pulled in. Does it boot? This one takes a while. Go ahead and console into it. It does load. It's just slow. So be kind and patient. Same thing with this guy over here. Go ahead and start it. And console into it. This guy also takes a while to load. So I'm going to leave these guys up and ready. And XR loads a little quicker than iOS v2, but that's okay. At least you get to see exactly how it works on the back end. But it does boot. So be kind and patient. Now, mind you, I don't have as many devices running as I normally would. So here's the thing. I'm going to show you how I go about doing the remote connection. So now that this guy's in play, he'll start to get to a certain point where he'll be ready to go. Now, I've only given this guy one interface. If we do a show IP interface brief, he's got one interface. But if I click off on him and I hover, you'll notice that down here it says console is on port 5001 and the type is telnet. It's telling you how to connect to the device. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up this guy. And I'm going to scroll down here to this guy here. I'm going to yes, switch. Why did that change? Anyway, right click on here, go edit, and I'm going to say 5024. So I'm going to come over here and do a 01. Click save. I'm going to double click on this guy. It's actually not going to work because I still have an open console. Go ahead and just close that out real quick. And there it goes. So now I'm on the console of that device. But in order for that to work, you have to properly set it up so that it can accept remote connections, which is the file or edit, preferences, server, enable the local server, make sure the mapping goes to the right interface IP address, and then make sure that you allow console connections to any local IP address. As long as you've done those three things, you should be squared away. And that goes for everything that you can get working. The one thing that I have not tried yet, which I will be doing here in the near future, is the ASA. But let's be kind and gentle to our engineers. Let's go back over to ESXi, because I know that's what everybody else is looking to understand. Bring this guy up here. And GNS3 VM. It says, okay, let's cancel. No. Okay, so we have to figure out what's going on here. Let's see. See for cancel. Oh. Okay, so apparently, let me see here. if config. Okay, it appears. Is it if config eth0? Hey, what do you know? I know a little bit about Linux. So 10.255 1.79. So that makes me wonder, if I open up a web page to that IP address, 10.255.1.79, apparently not. Let's see what my options here are. Man. That's funny. Can I exit? No. Quit? No. Okay. I will come back to this. I haven't messed with this yet, but well, I'll have to take a look at exactly how the GNS3 VM works. I just wonder why it doesn't work quite the way that I thought it was going to. at any rate, it doesn't make much of a difference. What I want you guys to know is this side does work. As you can tell, I'm going to go ahead and close all these guys out, and that should take care of that. I'm going to go ahead and waiting for the server to stop, and then I will go ahead and test out how this will work on. Okay, so XR is good. Let's go ahead and close this guy out as well because he's dead. I'm going to go ahead and open up GNS3. Wait for him to boot. As you can see, I've got the Junos olive image there, so I am dabbling a little bit with Juniper. I'm going to open a project from disk. Double click on switch because I've already got it working. Grab the switch topology, click on open, and once it loads, it'll bring up the topology first. And then once it brings up the topology, I'll be able to boot the topology, which it does. This is going to be the switch topology for Rikers Island training. It's pretty involved. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hover over this guy, 5024. So I have to put my telnet connection back the way that it was. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to boot this guy up. Give that a couple seconds to load. It usually loads pretty quick from giving the devices power, but overall it still takes a moment for them to work. I'm going to come back over here to switch, edit, write this 5024, and I'm going to go ahead and double click on that guy. And as you can see, it is loading as I have configured it. So that's what I want you guys to see. I will shoot another video on how to get the GNS3 VM to work once I figure that out and get it up and running. And then I will do some manipulation. I just wanted you guys to see how this would work. I'm kind of cheating a little bit, making the actual VM itself work a little bit differently, but it's all good at the end of the day. Until next time, guys, thanks so much for stopping by. We'll catch you guys in the next video.